haere mai to the Whāki podcast, which invites you and people from all walks of life to converse about various access to equity within the context of Aotearoa. We invite you and our guest today, which we're so excited for, to share lived experiences and an effort to identify common threads within support systems, social networks, and knowledge that serves and uplifts the collective human plight. Kelsey, what's our question for season 2?
So this season we are checking out what does equity and knowledge look like for various communities coexisting within one society. And as Tauiwi and Aotearoa, we recognise the mana whenua and kaitiaki of these lands. Malusio and I experienced most of our growth in the Waikato and want to honour Ngāti Awa, Ngāti Mahana and Ngāti Wairere. We are so grateful for the connections that our whakapapa weave through for us to be able to connect and grow with community through the whākiu kaupapa. Maluso and I would also like to honour our queer ancestors who fought for our rights and visibility as equitable citizens of the world. Kia ora, my name is Kelsey and I use they, them pronouns.
And kia ora, ko Maluso toku ingoa, and people use he, him pronouns for me and I'm alright with that. And today, we you already know the deal, fam. And the Whāki podcast, we're not in the business of introducing our guests. We allow our guests to introduce themselves. So please, if you could introduce yourself, your pronouns, and then finish the sentence, I am, blah, 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 blah.
Lisambala Vanaka, my pronouns are she, her, and my name is Talei Bryant. Kia ora, thank you so much for having me.
Kia ora.
So excited.
Honestly, it's vibes on vibes on vibes. So can you just also introduce like yourself in terms of what are you doing right now, and who's influencing you in terms of the communities that you either add value to or they add value to you?
Yeah. Again, I just want to thank you for having me here today. I'm very, very excited. And I just want to acknowledge my mother and my father and my family. My mother's from Fiji and my late father is from England, Ireland, Scotland, Wales, all around there. And he's a second gen Kiwi. And I've got 3 siblings, and I'd like to also acknowledge Tūhoe and Ngāti Awa. That is the area that I grew up in. Born in Nelson, but bred here in the Waimana Gorge, which is the heart of New Zealand. And now I'm living and working in Whakatane. And it's a beautiful space. And yeah, what was the other part of the question, sorry?
No, yeah, and the different communities. So you already mentioned a couple of them. So like in terms of the mahi that you do in your personal life, what different communities are you adding value to?
So across the Whakatane district, it's quite huge. Like it takes about an hour to get from the town to get out to Murupara, to get out to Ruatahina, which is up in the bush. And then where I grew up in Waimana, that's about 15-20 minutes out of town. And then further up there, you've got Matahi and Nukuhau close in that area. And then closer on the water, we've got Ohope, and then we've got Whakatane coastlands, Rangatahi, Matata, Thornton, we've got Te Tiko, we've got Kōrero in here, and we're quite close to Opotiki, about 45 minutes. So these are all of the different communities that I work in, but mainly I work in Whakatane and Waimana Nukuhau, Tania, Tuarua, Tuki area, which is where I grew up.
Wow. I feel like I literally just got a history download right now, like in terms of the regional area, because literally, like the only word that really, really resonated with me, well, the only community that I've been to and seen is Ohope, and the beach there, the beachfront there is amazing, and like Whakatane is obviously right there. So in my head, I'm like, oh, amazing.
So good. Yeah, I had some whanau that lived in Matata for a while. So I've kind of like done that drive down the coast. It's so beautiful. It's so gorgeous. I really love it.
No, it's stunning. Well, love it here. It's paradise. It's a bit overcast today, but it's all good. Still nice and hot.
We are curious. So this season, obviously, we're focusing on knowledge and equity and knowledge. So we're curious with the word knowledge. What does that bring up for you? Is it like... Actually, I don't want to preface it. I just want to know what you want to say.
No, that's all right. For me, what comes up with knowledge is Mātauranga. And that comes up for me only because this year I started working under Arataiahi and helping. There's 6 of us rangatahi around New Zealand delivering the Mātauranga facilitation workshop. So anyone who works with rangatahi, there's sort of this Mātauranga framework that is just like, I'd like to say ideal, but it's also ideal to work with anyone. And it's made up of 8 or 9 principles, up to you. And one of them is Mātauranga. And for me, I didn't really understand what these meant. But Aroha Nui, it's her birthday today, actually. She's our baby, turning 20. She's from Rotorua, and she always explains Mātauranga so beautiful, which is knowledge. And so many people see knowledge as bookwork and, like IQ, smart stuff like that. But for her, the knowledge, and which I really resonated to, was that her mother has all of this knowledge of weaving, which she then passes on to her. And I think back to my mum, who we grew up on a lifestyle block, and she knows how to fix water pumps, fix tractors. She makes all her own bread, her own jams, chutneys. She grows everything and then turns it into beautiful kai, takes us fishing. Like, she just knows so much knowledgeable sort of life skills that she's passed on to me. And through my work now and being blessed to grow up in that space, now able to sort of transfer those skills and share that knowledge that I have. But when knowledge comes up to me, it's just passing skills that we've all learnt onto each other. And like an example apart from that is just before this, I work for Sport Bad Plenty right now, and one of the ladies came down to teach me about statistics and how to write, how to analyse statistics that we've got from the survey and put into a report. And I found it quite daunting, but her passing on her knowledge and all of her tricks has really helped me. And all the time I was videoing and taking screenshots because I was like, my mates can use this for their mahi. And it's just, because when they find something, they pass that knowledge on. So that's what comes to me, is whatever knowledge I have and I learn, pass on to others, and all other people around me are doing the same and sharing their knowledge.
That's it. Wrap it up, fam.
Yeah.
We're done.
Yeah, we're done.
We're done. Wrap it up.
Yeah. Cool.
No, that's so beautiful. Like, I love how it, like, literally, like, what is knowledge to you?
Like, oh my God. Yeah, smashed it.
And I also really want to can you please just dive in a little bit further, because you say you're mates, so I feel like like do the same in return, and there's a reciprocal exchange of knowledge there. How did that come about? Like, was that a natural occurrence, or were you just like, you know what, guys, like, had a massive like mate hui and was like, guys, we're gonna intentionally share knowledge from now on, or was it just like how? What's the recipe of that, Talei?
I think for me, over time, some of these mates are like my best friends from high school who have now got into youth work, or some of them are working with Rangatahi and drugs and alcohol. And for me, all of the stuff I'm into is like running workshops, running programs, running events, learning about business. So those are all sort of the skills that I'm learning. And then along this journey of getting into community work and youth work, I started off just going to all these different events, networking huis, and making good friends along the way. So some of these mates are like 40 years old, 50 years old, 30s. Some are working in the DHB, some are working in the council, some are occupational therapists, and they all just do their own different things, but we all still catch up. So for an example, I guess would be when any rangatahi that I work with, a question today from our youth council member was, does anyone know any Māori health professionals that would be willing to talk to our community about COVID and vaccinations? And for me, it's always just who you know. So I'm like, yeah, my mate in the DHB who I just had a convo with might know, send a screenshot, pass it to him. And then he's like, yeah, I know someone, da-da-da. So for me, that's just sharing the knowledge of who I know in order to create those connections. But when we come back to the other sorts of knowledge, it's just if my mates are having a yarn to me, they'll be like, oh, can you help me with this? Can you help me with this pathway planning? And then people that they work with hear it, and then they come to me as well. But it's not always people coming to me. If I need, because I'm not from here, I'm not Māori, I'm Fijian, English, and it's it's hard to explain. But anything when I just want to know more about tikanga, I can just go to my best mates. And then they're like, oh, come over, come see Nan. So I go and have a munch with their Nan, go have a kai. And then she's just sort of passing on all her knowledge, and I get to learn more and more, and just so blessed to have that opportunity to learn from the elders of this community, but also just even from them. Like, there's so many times when I need and want knowledge from Rangatahi in order to do better. So it's come on guys, I'll help you do this, I'll help with this, whatever, and I just want to know, what are your experiences, what are your thoughts about this, what activities do you want to do in this community? And it's sort of paying them with, it's not even really paying, and with the rangatahi that I work with, they know that they're going to get a kai, but they also know that they're going to be treated well, treated with respect, and that that their worth is really known in the space. So that sharing of knowledge in the end is going to benefit them, because I'm wanting their knowledge on what they want in order to make something happen so that they can go further. And all along the way, I'm just learning from different people. I feel like I've rambled, but
no, carry on. More,
yeah.
Not less. No, because, and I also am curious. Sorry, Kelsey, was there something that you were curious before I jump in?
Yeah. So you talk about like working with rangatahi, and then some of your mates are like in their 30s and 40s. In my worldview, I've seen and perceived people attach knowledge to like age as well. Like, oh, those young people, they're just young people, they don't know what they're talking about, or go talk to the kuya down the road if you really want to know something important. But I'm curious what your experience has been like with working with young people and your mates that are like a bit older. What's your view of knowledge? Do you think that it's like, do you think that knowledge is attached to an age, or like how do we value knowledge at different spaces of our life, do you think?
That's a good question. And I don't think that knowledge is attached to age. And I think what a lot of people in our community are realizing now is that rangatahi have so much more knowledge when it comes to what it's like living as a rangatahi in this day and age, what it's like living with climate change being so heavy and so present on our minds, with also social media is a big one. They're like, people I work with, I'm getting a bit old now, I'm 24, but I'm getting older, away from the teen years, and they're like, what do you think about this? And I'm like, I don't know, like, I think that I'm young, but I coach volleyball girls who are like 13, 14, and when they're talking, I'm like, oh my God, I'm at that age where I don't understand what they're saying. So I think that everyone has got knowledge, just their own type. And then you meet some young people, like there's some young boys at the local high school who they'll put the hangi down for the school, they'll go out fishing, and some of them have dropped fish off at our house. They'll go and use all of these skills that they've learned, which people in their like 50s and 60s don't even know how to do, and they'll bring it, they'll share it with us. And then with all my mates who are sort of older, I've met them through their workspace, and they're passing on the knowledge that they've learned. So, Talei, you trying to do events? Yesterday, a lady I just started working with, she was like, oh, I've got some workshop run sheets if you want to have a look. And I was like, yes, please. She's like, I've got big project run sheets if you want to have a look. So she's sending me all of the stuff that she's done, which she knows will help me. And I think because she's already lived such a long, colourful life, like quite a few members of my team, they've acquired all of these different skills, which they can pass to me so I can learn straight away. But then on the other end, one of my volleyball girls just showed me how to like download these different apps and make a real cool video like super fast, because that was another skill that I wanted to learn, which I couldn't get from those older people. So I think we all...
Plug us in. What's the app?
Yeah. We all have knowledge, and it's just a different way of how people see knowledge. When people say young people don't know a thing, they haven't lived that long, they don't know. We are exposed to so much more than older people were back in their day. Like, we've probably seen more stuff just on the internet, on our phone, than they have seen, or, around about the same. But you know what I mean? So yeah, I don't think that knowledge is attached to age.
Beautiful. Beautiful. No, yeah, I'm glad I asked you, Kelsey, first because you literally hit the surface of what I was wanting to ask as well. Because Talei, you literally dance so beautifully with the way that you talk about intergenerational sharing of knowledge, and the way that you're actually so graceful and humble to even go and ask your friends for their and then your friends invite you to their kuia, and I'm like, yo, that's like. I know that some of us, for a lot of us, it would be hard even asking a friend, and then for the friend to invite their mom, their nan into the space. I feel like that is a really beautiful recipe that you have potently in your region that I feel like a lot of the other regions could learn from. And I wanted you to stretch a little bit about that intergeneration because you've literally talked about how knowledge is not attached to age. How do you honor intergenerational knowledge? So, like, how do you walk and wear intergenerational knowledge? Because I feel like already you embody the practice.
For sure.
I sort of get I'll answer how I think the question has been asked.
Go ahead.
But do you mean like when I go there and how do I respect the person who's talking to me?
Regardless of the age, or how do you, like, in terms of receiving the knowledge, how do you humble yourself to being like, okay, you know what, knowledge is knowledge, and it's not about for me to make sense of what is right or wrong. You're going to receive it from whatever age it comes in.
I get you. I don't know. For me, before I even go to either talk with Rangatahi or talk with Pakeke, I just make sure I always have food. You know, kai. You always got to have kai, and that's sort of like my here you go. Or for my friends, whanau, they love all my mum's jams. So I'll be like, Mum, I'm going to see da-da-da. Can I have some jams and chutneys? And she'll like fill me up a box, and she might have just made a fresh loaf of bread or a cake. She always makes carrot cake. So I'll go and take that down and just sit there and have a cuppa and learn what I'm learning. And I guess it's just taking that knowledge in. And then depending who the person is, sometimes I write notes because that's just the type of person I am. I'm like, oh yeah. Or you could be talking and then something will click in my brain and I'm like, I'm not being rude. I really need to write this down because I'm going to forget. So carry on. But usually when it's a couple with old Nan, it's just, sitting there, taking in the moment and just also, I guess because both my grandmothers have died and my grandfather, just being in the moment of being lucky enough to be with such a beautiful, beautiful woman who has that real grandmotherly feel. And it's just so beautiful for me. I don't know. But with Rangatahi, the same thing. Always got to have a kai, always got to make sure it's nice. And just what I've learned is not to run stuff the way that I've seen if it doesn't work for me. But then also co-designing stuff. So talking, if we're going to have a workshop with Rangatahi, what did you like about the last one? What do you want to do? They're like, oh, I want to do something fun. Oh, yeah, okay, we're going to go to the Heads. We're going to have, the Heads is like the local, just by the water. You can see Whale Island, there's a park. Go there, have a barbecue, and just have yarns like that, and taking it out of what is seen as like the mainstream space. Have a workshop with your tables and your pencils and your paper, your projector, all of that. No music. Like, we want to create a vibe and an atmosphere where people are just comfortable to be themselves, because that's where I feel you get the people let down their guard, they let down their walls, and they're really just going to give you what they have, and in return you're giving them like just a really cool experience and a kai. And I don't know, my mum always says, if you think about the good, the light, the bright and the nice, everything will be good in your life. And I was like, oh, that's so cool.
Can we just say that?
Rewind.
Like, that's they could just rewind. Like, can you just adopt your like philosophical like mum voice and just spit it again? Because I'm like, yo, that was a jam right there.
Oh, it's her. She's so good. She just says, look after, as long as everything in your heart is good, it's light, it's bright, and it's nice, and everything you're doing represents those values, you're going to be fine in your life. And she's had a real hard life, lost her husband, lost her mother the year after, just heaps of real intense things, raising 4 kids. While my dad was at sea for half of our lives. So she's just amazing. And I've learnt a lot from her, manaakitanga, making sure I give people stuff. I've learnt that from her. And just being a good person at heart and not being, so fake. Some people are so fake and snakes. And I'm like, what? What are you up to? So she's just taught me to be straight up. And I've seen her be straight up, cutthroat, ruthless. But the people she's like that to are like, thank you. Thank you for being open, because people are just so scared of people not liking them. And she just tells them straight up, what's up? But she does it with good intentions. So that's what I have learned, and I try and apply that as best I can to my everyday, and things work out all right.
You're still alive, right? You're still alive.
Yeah. Still here.
Man, shout out to Mum, because I feel like we really need a shout out to Mum right now. So what's her name, so we can really guess her up right now?
Anaseini.
Anaseini. Oh, that's such a beautiful Fijian name. And it's interesting because when you were talking about how you always bring kai, I'm like, hang on a minute, there's a massive, like, we keep on rounding back to Mum making the jam, the chutney and the carrot cake, and then Mum's juice over here. So I'm like, yo, we've me and Kelsey really love our mum, so we're like, we recognize when someone loves their mum too. So I'm like, yo, shout out to your mum, man. Your mum's the jam.
Your mum's the jam.
She really is.
literally.
Unintended.
So cool.
Spreading her love everywhere, like every carrot cake, every bread.
Oh, stop it. Crack me up.
Nah, Kelsey, you?
So you've talked a lot about, like, acquiring knowledge from external sources, like from people, from friends, from your rangatahi that you work with, and I'm curious how you kind of hold that knowledge in your body, and what kind of knowledge do you think that you might intrinsically have before, like, sourcing outward? So, like, what do you already know? How did you think that came to be before moving out into searching for the knowledge outside of yourself?
That's a really cool question. Holding that knowledge, I think the knowledge that I have before, getting from all the sources, is just sort of how to talk to people and how to build relationships. And that's how I've acquired all this knowledge, is by creating sort of strong relationships. And that comes down to, I think, I listen to a lot of podcasts and stuff. There's like Eric Thomas, like, if you don't succeed as bad as you breathe, like those shouting in your ear ones. And I'm like, tell me.
You what? I'm sorry, can you just tell me? I need to be punished. Tell me.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, when I need to do some work, I listen to them, so that it makes me do it. But where was I going with that? Oh, just having the ability to be able to connect with people, and so many of the podcasts and stuff that I listen to, it's you are like if you're surrounded by 4 idiots or something like that, you're the 5th idiot. Not calling anyone an idiot, but the people that I surround myself with are very smart in all their own different ways, and they're just real positive, upbeat, like pretty drama-free, happy people, and that's how I like to be, and yeah, just the knowledge of being able to connect with people and treat people. It's always just comes back to that saying, hey, treat others the way that you want to be treated. I want to be fed. I want to be listened to. I want to be treated with respect and not treated like a dumb little kid. So that's how I'm going to treat other people. And yeah, I guess through that, I've been able to create all these different relationships, which have really helped me. And I was thinking about it because my new mahi is working for the district council, getting rangatahi into work. And I just find it crack up because 3 years ago, I was on the benefit. I was going to all these courses. Like, I knew what I wanted to do, and it did not involve study. And I was like, I'm not going to study because that's not me. And so I was doing all this free work and stuff and made all these connections. And along the way, people have seen, like, you know, when people are just like, I know that that person is in it for the good, and they have the skills because they've done it for free for so long. And I guess all the jobs I have now have been because people have either recommended me or they just have heard. And it's not to be cocky or anything at all. It's just, you know what I mean? It's not about what you know, it's who you know. And that's something that I've been, that came up in quite a few conversations I had with Rangatahi, is a few of us all have jobs because of the people that we know and not because of the skills that we have. But yeah.
And I think also, like, that's a testament to the way that you carry yourself too. So, you know, people wouldn't be recommending you if they didn't actually think that you were good at whatever this job might have been. So, yeah.
True that.
Yeah, because I mean, I wouldn't recommend someone that I knew was going to play up or be a little shit. You know? I'm like, no, that person is never going to show up on time. They're never going to be prepared. But hire them. They'll be great. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I had a couple of those and I'm like, oh not today. Listen to the podcast. Oh, my goodness.
That podcast gave me vibes, okay? That podcast gave me vibes.
Oh, you know, the most awkward is when you're listening to them and you're like just chopping onions and you're going handy and someone turns on the speaker and it connects and you're like, oh, they know what I'm listening to. They're like, are you all good?
Leave me alone. Leave me alone. I have no stories like this at all. I have none whatsoever. Long story short, your boy was watching something, and you know, it went on the speaker. So I'm like, I'll leave everything else to your imagination. If you're listening, I'll leave everything else to your imagination. Okay. Anyways, so. And honouring all of the things that you've said around knowledge, what knowledge lives rent free for your library, and how do you honour those knowledge bases? So like, what do you have that's just on lock all the time? And it's not like, it could be the fun and lively, or it could be just, like, what's your undercurrent? Because I feel like if in your library of experiences and knowledges, what's the foundation of your knowledges?
That's a really good question. I'm just trying to think. I feel like we can cut this awkward pause. Can you like explain the question? And honestly, this is a bit of why I was a bit hesitant to jump on to the podcast, because when I saw the question, I was like trying to figure out the difference between equity and equality and all that. And some of the words I just don't really understand. And it's like, not that you have to dumb it down, but please dumb down the question.
No. Like, so to me, it's like, so for me, it's aroha and love. Like, that's my fundamental root. And then at the same time, so that's always living rent free. And it's like, whenever new, so it's like, let's say aroha, like love is like at the front door of my library, and whatever knowledge comes through that adopts aroha on the way in, and then sticks, like tries to stick there with aroha. So to me, I'm always trying to find the aroha in every knowledge that I get and I receive. And it's harder than usual, because sometimes it comes in with love, but then I didn't realize the T's and C's, and then it like unpacks itself, and I'm like, I'm trying to find the love in it. So I guess for you, like, what knowledge lives rent free in that capacity? So
can we take a pause? Molly, can you ask the question again, and then we'll jump in from there?
Yeah.
Just so that I can cut. Yeah.
All right. So. Are you ready? But I kind of like that you asked the question.
Yeah,
though.
I do too.
I really like that you answered.
Oh, you can leave that. I don't care.
I really like that you asked the question, because it's a learning lesson for us as well. Like, and I feel like for me, I'm like, yes, ask the question. But yes. So I guess let me not fanciful it. What knowledge lives rent free in your library? So your library of experiences.
I guess for me, whenever I'm learning about something, or I don't know, it comes to it is aroha, same as you, like love, always about the love, and it's about how when I'm thinking about something or I get taught something, it's how is this going to impact the people around me, because that's ultimately why I do what I do. And there's a point of my life when I started this journey a few years ago where my mental health was terrible. I was just in a really bad state. I was like, oh my gosh, if I don't find something soon, I'm out. Just to put it like in that sort of way. And then when I found what I love to do, it's just always been about impact. Like I just want to see it now, because there's so many people out there who are suffering, and in our communities there's so many rangatahi who are just bored. Like they're so bored, they've got nothing to do, and I'm like, we need to do something for them ASAP so that they've got something to do, and that I know that feeling of feeling like you got nothing, or always feeling sad and not knowing why. So we need to give them opportunities, give them fun stuff to do so that they can, be happy and eventually find what they like. But yeah, so I guess when I'm talking with people, it's how is this knowledge going to help me have an impact on the people around me? And also making sure that it's sort of like ethical, or just, that the people, someone might give me a bit of advice or something, but their sort of view is not the best for everyone. So it might just be for a particular group of people. And in my mindset, it's always, how is this going to help everyone? And there's just such a not a divide, but you can see a divide, especially I guess in the way councils are run. Like we always hear that sort of term, stale, male, pale. And it's just making sure that people's voices are heard, and especially young people, but just making sure that everyone's voices are heard. And yeah.
How do you kind of navigate that? Like, I find it interesting of how people navigate that space between, like, their understanding of the world and then somebody else's who maybe doesn't align, and then somebody else who does, and navigating through all of those spaces. Because reality is we live in a world where people have their own opinions, and they're completely entitled to those. And I've seen that some people just like cut off the person that doesn't, their views don't quite align. But I was like, that's not actually, I don't think that that's helpful to just cut it off, because then like out of sight, out of mind isn't actually, I don't think it's helpful. So I'm curious how you kind of, if you navigate that, or like what that journey kind of looks like for you in your worldview.
Yep. I think only because I did this, I used to just, if someone didn't have the same view, I'd be like, oh, no, don't want to talk to you again, like straight cut off. But now I've learned that, especially with the people who I disagree with, like there's this boy who I just used to get so frustrated with in youth council, and he was just so like all about the stats and quite a negative vibe. And I was like, before the people, man. But then when I did this Gallup Strength Finder test, and then just learnt more, I think it was our mayor. She was having a yarn to some of us, and she was like, I'm a coach for this, da-da-da-da-da. And it's interesting that when we do this with a group of people, we find that those people who come across as negative and always like, this isn't going to work, that's just the way their brain is wired. Like they're just thinking of all the things that could happen in the future. And that's actually a real strength in them, because they're helping someone like me who's just like, big ideas, let's do this, let's do that, let's do this. Don't listen to the haters, but they're not actually a hater. They're just someone who's actually trying to make the idea better. And so I guess navigating it, seeing people who I disagree with, seeing it as a strength and learning from them, but then also trying to let them understand what I think. And I think it comes back to another example in an organisation that I work with now, where there were comments made which didn't sit right with me, and being the only brown face in the group of about 6, it really like hit me, and I was like, how do I have justice for people without coming across as the angry brown person and female? So just sat on those feelings, and I really find that talking to people who may have already been in these spaces really helps me navigate what to do. So I talk to some of my other bosses who are older and I just look up to and think are really cool and wouldn't understand how to get through this. And then it took a week for me to actually unpack what was going on and how I'm going to move on. And something that I've learnt, I'm going to just shout her out, Christina Lee, something I've learned from her a lot. But one thing is that, what are the outcomes? Like, if I'm going to bring something up, am I just bringing it up for the sake of it? Am I just talking for the sake of it? Or is there actually some outcomes and solutions that I want? So she's taught me to, outline what is wrong, what is going on, but then what are the solutions? Because if I don't come up with solutions, is anyone else going to even try? And so, ended up doing that process with her support and another person's support. And then it ended up being way better. And I was just at a point of being so angry all the time. And then I actually understood that all of these people I'm working with, they actually want to learn from me. And just because of the comments they're saying, it's not like it's not their fault. I just think that they're a bit, what's that word? When a bit ignorant. But they do want to learn, so that's cool. So I can pass on that knowledge to them. But also, it's not just because I'm brown, it's not my job to teach them about that sort of stuff. They need to teach themselves. So my job now is to just keep pulling them up on the shit that they're saying, which doesn't sit right with me. So I rambled on again a bit, but
no, you didn't. Stop saying that. I think you killed it.
I think the 3 bullet points from that kōrero that I took away is seeing people's, whatever pisses you off about someone, really thinking about it. Like if they're talking too much, if they're negative, look at it from their point of view, because it might be a strength. So turning people's weaknesses into strengths, and just having sort of role models or mentors or people who may be in similar positions as you or have been in similar situations who you think you can just talk to and unpack the situation. And 3 would just always, if you have an issue with someone or organisation or something, then just coming up with that, addressing the issues, but also having solutions in place that you can talk to as well. Because that's the only way that we're really going to see is change, is having solutions and then leading them out. But
love that. And I feel like what you've said can actually transcend a lot of different, so outside of counsel and outside of professional spaces as well, because it's if we're focused on the specificities of people's words, people consume knowledge and how to communicate at different levels. So I feel like the words that they describe, and I feel like that's the grace that we can give people, is that because they give that, we don't know how someone articulates their heart. And it's like for us, we might be like really well versed, because I feel like if you're always raised in community and you know what how to talk in community and how to be in community, it's 100% a strength when you go into an office space, because people look at us like, oh wow, you've got such compassion, and I'm like, no, no, that's what you see. Not who I am. That's what you see.
Oh.
But I really do. I just want to awhi and tōtoko what you just said around seeing people's disagreements as actually a strength. And to me, I'm like, just because they disagree with you, it actually doesn't, like, to me, I'm not going to mansplain it, because what you said it beautifully fine. I'm just really in awe that that's coming out in such a like raw, authentic way in the office space, because a lot of the times it's like, you have the raru, and then everybody goes off and starts having their little moan sessions. And I'm like, that's okay as well. And at the same time, I'm like, what does growth look like in that space? So I feel like you really cater to that. You really did cater to that.
Thank you. It was so scary. And then since then, I just had more raru in other organisations, and I was like, wow, step back. But we're learning.
They just all came for you at once, did they? Did they all decided to come at once? Like, damn.
Taking my whenua, I was like, get out of here. Oh, but we get you now.
Yeah, get you now.
I think then that leads into what you were saying before of like if any of the rangatahi around you are then having these challenges, you now have the skills and ability and knowledge to then pass that on to them to help them navigate those spaces too. So I think your like connection to community allows your lessons to be not just yours, but like to all the young people around you too. So love you. That's amazing.
Yeah. Because I definitely heard as well, have the critique, have the outcomes and the solutions attached to it so that you can share, because if you only have the critique, no one else is willing to wayfind the solutions if everybody's enlightened or everybody is aware of the critique. Nobody wants to be in Solutionville. No one wants to be in like things. So it's like, at least I really love that. Because I feel like I've gone through my own nuances of that. And I really love that because it's already in the CV, you know? It's one of those things that you put in your CV, solution focused. And I'm like, practicality, this is what it looks like, Talei. Thank you so much. Practicality, this is what it looks like.
Oh, shout out to Christina Leaf. She's taught me so much.
Yeah. I saw her at Festival for the Future where I saw you. And yeah, amazing, beautiful. And like held that MC space so beautifully too. Yeah. Really, yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
So we're curious, like what stories, so yeah, you've shared so many gems. And we kind of want to come through to our last question, which is like, what stories have you archived or inventoried or placed in the back that, you know, maybe aren't quite ready to come to the front? Or maybe stories that you're still navigating or wayfinding. Essentially, what's in your whākī for yourself? What are the conversations that maybe you're a bit too whakamā to have right now? We're inviting you forward for those.
Like in the workspace?
In any space you want.
Any space.
Any space. I think so I talked a bit about in the conversations that I had that it triggered me, like some of the words that were said. And I think the more, because I've only been in this space since 2018, so only a couple years, and I was real naive at the start, and I was like, oh my God, everyone's so cool, and look at what these people are doing. And then as I've gotten to know different organisations more and sort of really learn about like colonisation and tokenism and all of that sort of stuff, it's just so hard to not be bitter when I see it so much, like in different organisations. And it's been quite hard for me to stay a positive person when I'm just like, I'm not the token brown person who's going to do karakia. Like, I'm just trying to get out of that mindset, and as well as build up the sort of courage and knowledge to speak up more for people, but also understanding something that's been hard for me is that cultural identity, you know, like, and I guess lack of identity growing up in a predominantly Māori space has been beautiful. I've learnt so much about the culture, and I'm just so blessed to be in this space. But it has also been super, super hard for me. Like, I'm Fijian, but yet I know more Māori than my Fijian side. I never really put in the effort to go to Fiji because I was always so busy. I was so busy at school. I wanted to stay I wanted to get good grades. I wanted to be all of these things. And then as I got older, it was like, I'm saving money. I'm sending this money to my mum to help her. I don't have time to just go for a holiday. And I never took that time when I was younger to go over. There was only one experience that was real cool when I went over with my nana. And she was the Minister for Women or something at the time. And she was travelling around Fiji, dropping off sewing machines. And it was just sort of really sparked my everything. Like, I just saw how different Fiji was to New Zealand, how different the people are, and just how beautiful it all was. And I was like, this is such a beautiful culture. Like, I don't even care for third world. It's beautiful and everyone's lovely, and I just love that. So pretty much I'm just trying at a space now where I'm trying to embrace more, who I am and learn more about my identity, but I'm also trying to, pass it on to my siblings. Like my youngest brother, I'll start talking to him in Fiji and the words I know, and he's like, I don't want to say that. I don't want to da-da-da. And he's only 9, and I'm like, no, you don't understand. And my sister just turned 13, and she's like all about it, trying to learn. And then my other brother, he's not that into it either, like not into the traditions or the culture. So it's just trying to make sure that me and my siblings are culturally strong. So when we have our kids, we pass it on and we don't lose it. We don't lose our mother tongue over time, which we still have to regain back because we never got taught. So I think for me, that's been really hard, and especially being in different spaces around here, people just assume that I'm Māori because of the way I talk, the way I look and all of that. And then it's like, I'm like, oh, cool, because I'm not. I'm actually Island represent. We actually got a gold medal this year for the sevens. But at the same time, it's just hard. Like, it would just be so much easier if I was, because then it would just make me not feel so whakama being in these spaces, So that's a bit of my life where I'm just learning and navigating through, and yeah.
Nah, Talei, that's a massive koha. Like, for us, that's a massive koha, and especially because I'm in the same waka wayfinding as well in terms of being a tauiwi, iwi, to a lot of the spaces that I'm in. So to me, I don't lead with saying that I'm a tauiwi, but it's because it's like, for me, I'm like, I'm there because my answer, like, the way that I've been fashioning this is that it's so hard for me to look, because like as soon as we migrated to New Zealand, I'm like, my heart's always there with the motu. Like, my heart's always there, and I feel like in jumping into Mātauranga Māori and Te Ao Māori, it actually gifted me a lot more questions to better bridge to my indigeneity, both on my Rotuman side as well as my Tuvaluan side. So it was like, to me, my indigeneity is something I feel like we already know it's innately in us, and at the same time, it actually, like, I have to tōtoku your whakaaro 100% around the representation physically in the realm, like in our life, the representations, and the lighthouses aren't there, which means that we get to be the new reference point, and we are the new reference points, and it's so much harder to navigate, especially in a room of people who don't understand the bigger plight of things, and they take for granted the or otherwise they offer their struggles, and I feel like their struggles are 100% real from their perspectives, and at the same time they diminish our struggles because our struggles aren't alive and well in the room, and their struggles are alive and well, and they can pinpoint their struggles. And I'm like, if you could only see, if you could only feel, and if you could only innately know the struggles that we carry, you wouldn't even talk to us in the manner that you do, and I feel like that's one of the big, I hold big space for that, and especially about giving love to the ignorance in that space, because I'm like, yo, you are 100% right. A lot of people don't understand that journey, like, at a big level. And it's okay, because to me, I'm like, I wish that we would get to a point where we could openly talk about this and say, hey, we are also looking at this as well. We are having conversations with this as well. We don't know everything, and we're still trying to find everything with you, not against you, and that's a part of a little part and parcel of the negotiation game right now, which I hear strongly from you. How else have you been navigating that kōrero for you? Like, have you tried different things in terms of trying to bridge understanding there?
Like between the cultures? Just having more yarns with my mum, really, and Fijians always go to church. In Whakatane, not so much, but we've reconnected with whanau from Hamilton, and like my mum's cousins who she grew up with, so meeting with them, and they taught us to do the lovo, like wrap the chicken in the leaves. But I honestly was like, nah, like nothing's better than my honey soy chicken wrapped in foil. And then tried it wrapped in the leaves, and I was like, oh, this is so much nicer. So it always starts with food for me, learning. That's actually something that's been really cool. I go to Rotorua, Tauranga, and go to the mushrooms or the Indian supermarkets where they've got the Fiji, ndalo, tapioca, all of that sort of stuff, and I bring it home for my mum. And she's just been cooking it, and she's like, I'm at an age now. She's only 48. She looks very young, but she just only wants her island food, and her partner now is a fisherman, so he's doing that. She's making the ota, she's doing her ndalo with coconut cream and onions. So just learning about our food first, even so much as like just all these sticky notes that she'll write like what everything is in the language. So we'll just stick it on the door, there's on the fridge, it's on the chairs. So we're just starting to sort of understand like that, and just getting my mum, because all of our other family are either in Hamilton or Auckland, and we've had some family rariraris that just make us not see quite a lot of them, and all the rest are in Fiji. So that's sort of how we've been doing it, and a way for my siblings to unknowingly do it as well, because if they see the words, if they learn about the kai, they're learning more. And when we have birthdays, there's certain traditions that we do. When we walk past each other, we make sure, chill out.
Yeah,
come on. Yeah. And I even bought like half a kilo of kava, and I was like, that's us whanau, and just learning those ceremonies. So just learning everything sort of like practically, and not what I tried to do at the start with a notebook and be like, okay, talk to me, I'll translate, and I'll just keep writing. Like, it doesn't work like that. So that's sort of been a way that we've started incorporating learning more.
Beautiful.
Does that sort of answer your question?
100%. And Kelsey definitely loves tapioca. Like, cassava is Kelsey's like number one. Tapioca and kokonda, like raw fish. That's Kelsey's like two.
Every time I go to Malu's house for dinner, I was like, can we have that? I want this, please.
Yeah.
Any requests? Yeah, you already know. Thank you. Cassava every time.
Have you had the cake?
And the fish and the coconut. Oh, yeah. So.
What were you saying?
No, I was just salivating, but also wondering, have you tried cassava cake?
Yes.
No.
It's bomb.
So
it's bomb.
Cassie, you got to try it.
I don't know how to make it, but it's super bomb. It's super bomb. And it's just so, you just have to taste it.
It's a different texture, eh? Like, it's beautiful.
It really is. It really is.
Or pineapple pie. Like, we could just sit here and talk about food all day, but...
But I like that you embody it. So it's about what's practically happening in your world, and how do you integrate, the language and the culture. Because you are right, a lot of our cultural practices are practices. So you have to be in practice with it. Because to me, when you're talking about kava, I really resonate with the kava conversation around ritual, because kind of like a lot of people have pōwhiri, for Te Ao Māori, they have pōwhiri to welcome the people in. For kava, and especially for a lot of the ceremonial things before we drink the kava, this like the ceremony that happens is actually, like, are you familiar with it? Or, because I don't want to mansplain something that's already a part of your culture.
No, I'm half familiar. Like, I know sort of what to do. I'm just starting to sort of learn like the tikanga behind who can actually mix, because I know that there's only like one some villages let women mix and some are just no. And then like the chief sits opposite, like, yeah, my uncle was teaching us all the stuff and we're just like, so much stuff.
Hard.
My
And
brain's already
they
numb.
don't go slow. They're like, all right, so I've said that. You know that by now. Bye. Like,
Yeah.
no, yeah. So the tikanga that I really like got away from Yangona, which is the cover, is how they welcome it. So the reason why a lot of Fijian villages always gift kava upon welcoming is because it's a mixture of like the root, which is from the ground, and the water from the village mixed together, so that it can protect your body while you are in the proximity and in the territory. So that's why kava, even though it might be not palatable for the majority taste, it's actually a protective measure to say, hey, we've mixed our earth as well as our water systems to welcome you and so that you can be protected while you're in our territories. And I'm like, yo, that's
beautiful.
like, that's potent. Like, you know, and I'm like, so a lot of like our, the men or the cover master that would be sitting in front of the cover, he would say that as an incarnation before distributing the cover. And I'm like, yo, like when I knew that, I'm like, yo, I'll sit down at a cover session anytime. But before I was a little bit on the taste palette side of being like, it's giving me some numb vibes, you know. But I'm like, yo, when you know the kaupapa, it changes the whole perspective, right? Like, and I feel like that's we all have experienced that at different spaces.
I love that numb feeling, eh? I'm like, round 3, round 4, keep me on. But like, it's just the yarns you have, you know, and I just love sharing it with my friends who've shared so much of their culture, and it's like, oh, now you can learn about ours, and it's just a beautiful time. But that's beautiful. I love the way that because I always like wondered, but I didn't want to, you know, Fijians can be quite harsh sometimes, so if I don't want to ask them, they'll just like, they'll be like, you, kavalangi, gap. I'll be like, oh my gosh,
I can't believe you said
so sorry. That's what my mum would always call my dad.
Or
us.
I'm not gonna mansplain what that word means, but it's lethal.
It is lethal.
No, thank you so much. Thank you so much for bestowing us with your wisdom. Thank you for being authentic and raw with us today, actually. I've actually, like, and yeah, you've really highlighted to us a practical, real life way of all of these wishy-washy terms, you know, like, you know, I love that you were like, hey, those words are great and we love them, but like, can you just, let's talk about the real. And I'm like, yo, I love that, more of that. And if people want to connect with you and if people resonate with your conversation today, how are they best to contact you?
Just social media, you know, Instagram, Facebook. I usually accept everyone, as long as your profile don't look scary, nah. But yeah, just social media. My name's just Talei, Bryant on both of them, and I always love to connect with people. Like, that's my favorite thing, is if someone wants help or support, always keen to share whatever networks I got, or if anyone's like, oh, yo, you might be interested in this, always keen to go on a roadie and go check out some other kaupapa. So hit me up if you want to connect, and if not, then oh well, you miss out on some buns and free relish.
Oh, I'm in. Where's this pool? I'm diving in, okay? You put in cassava and raw fish, and me and Kelsey are in, okay?
I'm there. I'm so there.
Oh.
No, thank you so much. All right, so we started with a jingle. Can you join us in for our jingle in, please?
Oh, yep.
All right. The fuck you.
Fuck you.
Fuck you.
Hey. The fuck you.
Fuck you.
Fuck you.
Thank you very much, everybody. Ngāti te whanau. Thank you so much.
Ka kite, thank you.